please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Clay Link here with Todd Zola of RotoWire and Masters Ball. Todd, we have a ring light in the office now. It is blinding me on this Friday morning, but I guess I need it. Wake my ass up on this Friday before XM, which we have coming up after this. A big draft weekend, of course. We got Tout Wars. How are you managing? Are you staying afloat, Todd?
So far, so good. Yeah, we're just now we're up to the whims of the internet. As long as there's not a massive internet outage over the weekend, we'll be all set. I think anyway. We did it last year this way, so we have some experience and see how it goes. Should be fun. You know, it's gonna be a good weekend. Rather be in New York, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's true. I saw already some tweets from Greg Ambrosius and others drafting right now as we speak.
Yeah.
A big NFBC live event weekend. I'm not doing any live, of course, but I'm looking forward to sharing a team with James. And I'm in the Tout Wars head-to-head, and I'm looking forward to that on Sunday. Could you tell me what I'm doing tomorrow? No, I'm going to comb through my emails and find exactly what I'm doing. But I'm running something behind-the-scenes Q&A during the AL.
Yeah, so you will be on a Zoom call, a publicly accessible Zoom call, which will have the links out from toutwars.com, the Twitter site. I'm sure Clay will put them out. I'll put them out on our Twitter sites. And it's just a publicly accessible Zoom room. And you're just going to, lead the conversation and you could probably you'll have access to the room and you can say who's up if you want, just kind of
chat with people and whatnot.
It's our chat. We usually have a chat, but we're going to do it over Zoom this year. And there's still a chat in the Zoom. Now the drafters, as you'll find out on Sunday, have their own private Zoom room to, Zola, stop it. I got to do, because I'll be babysitting the rooms. So we have a little private chat to try to keep as much banter as we can over, due to the situation. So that's the plan anyway. We'll see how it pull it off. Now, Baseball HQ did something similar with labor. So if they can do it, so can we, right?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think I could do it. And yeah, I thought that was the case, but thank you for clearing that up and looking forward to being a part of it. If you want to come hang with me tomorrow morning, I will be there in the AL. I thought I double booked myself with XM, but we don't have an XM show tomorrow.
That is correct.
That is a good thing. I'll be there bright and early. And then the Tout Wars head-to-head the next day. I'm pumped. The scoring system changing again, but you guys have come to the conclusion that the previous league winner gets to decide between the big sites and their scoring system when it comes to the head-to-head league. So I think that's a good call. I mean, it's I'll be honest with you, as a player in that league, it's a little frustrating to not have one set system and to be able to kind of learn that over time and adjust. But at the same time, it's out of my wheelhouse a little bit and just a good learning experience. So I'm open to different scoring systems.
As a board member, it's frustrating going back and forth trying to find the perfect system. So I think this way, So this way, I mean, it's a fine balance between what we air quote think is right. Well, actually, I can do real quotes because we're on the YouTube.
Yes.
Trying to find the balance between relatable and what we think is right or better. We have to do that in the entirety of Tout Wars. So that it's kind of a fine line to, we're OBP, it's still the minority, but, that sort of thing. So, so this year it's CBS. Ariel Cohen won last year, and he writes for CBS. So it's a company man, as it were. So CBS, Yahoo, ESPN, and Fantrax are the four that we have on the table. And whoever wins gets to choose the associated system. This way, we're relatable to about, between a quarter and a third of everybody, because these sites are split pretty equally. But then I think it's the right way to do it. And it took us a little while. We learned our lesson.
Yeah, thanks for the work you guys have put in, and thanks for letting me be a part of Tout Wars. I'm excited about it. Still looking for my first ring. Ian Kahn fought me off one year, and then Jake Seeley, I had a runner-up finish to him, and now I'm looking at Ariel Cohen, so that's a tall mountain to climb. Looking forward to it. Todd, you were part of the RotoWire Staff Keeper League salary cap draft earlier this week. 18-team league. I want to talk a little bit about that. We'll get to your latest Z-Files column, too, which is really good stuff. Candidates to lose homers with the new baseball. So really a key article that you should all check out. Just went up this morning. But before we get to that, you've been in a league like this. We had Staff Keeper 3, which fizzled out, unfortunately, but you come over to Staff Keeper League. You know the general rules and how things work in a league like this. It is very deep, though. Did the inflation catch you off guard at all, or did the draft go about as you expected?
Well, last year was my first year, and inflation shouldn't catch you off guard, right? I mean, we all know it. We all know that it irritates me, makes me mad. Yeah. You know, people are paying this much money for a player, and they're not going to be able to fill in the rest of the roster and everything else. And this is a dumb analogy; it just came to my head. But remember way back when we used to go to concerts and ball games. Everybody stands up, and you think if everybody sits down, then everybody can see. So it's like it's not the same thing, but it's like if everybody doesn't pay overboard, then everybody's going to get decent players.
Yeah.
So, but people always stand up, and people always pay $72 for the best available players.
It's a really good analogy.
Well, it's fair.
I like that. Yeah,
it's fair. Anyway, but
it works.
Well, when you're short and fat, you don't want to stand up. I mean, it's
I know that.
Old.
I'm in
older.
bucket.
I mean, younger, I didn't mind it. And I'm thinking more of football games and concerts than anything else. Baseball, no one stands up. Well, maybe when the winning run scored. But anyway, the thing that caught me off guard last year was it's an 18-team league, right? And there's all sorts of inflation. There's always, if you want to play the middle game, there's always somebody with enough money for one more player, right? And you think you're going to play the middle game and get 10 guys for $15 to $20 that are 20 to 25 in your sheet or whatever. But with 18 teams, in a 12-team league, maybe that happens 6 times and it's done, and and you move on. You get the players you want. In an 18-team league, someone's saving. What did Sean Manaea go for, right? I mean,
somebody had the hammer, but
I did, and I said no. I said I mean I didn't want to give it up for the rest. If I could have kept going, but I wasn't going to pay whatever that was, because then I would lose the hammer for the rest. So, I mean, but that was the way it was in general, in that you better get, you have to pay premium, just pick and choose well. Last year, I know one was Corey Kluber. I forget who the other, I mean, I picked 2 terrible pitchers, and whatever chance I thought I may have had, which I didn't, was down the drain. This year, we'll see what happens, but I was prepared to not get as burned in that middle ground, because I knew I'd be playing the middle ground, basically because my offense was pretty much purchased. I needed just to fill it in. So I had to pay for some pitching, and then, knock on wood, get the hitters. I left $8 on the table, but I got the 4 or 5 guys that I wanted anyway. It cost me a little bit less than expected to get a couple of the players that I ended up purchasing. So I'm not like kicking myself for leaving money. It's again, I wish I had paid this, because I needed that money, or thought I needed that money at the end. So usually it happens, you leave 2 or 3 on the table, but it just turned out that no one was chasing the players that I was chasing at the end. So I left money on the table. That's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, in a keeper league, that doesn't hurt you so much, especially because then that means you have cheaper keepers in subsequent years. It is, you're right that, inflation shouldn't really surprise anybody. I guess the extent of it always kind of just, I'm always kind of in awe of it after so many standard leagues. Yeah, because there is so much inflation. This league's been around, I mean, I've been in it probably 5, 6 years. I think it's been around for 20-some. I don't know exactly how long, but that just goes to show how long this has been going, how much extra money's in the pool, adding that inflation. So, and it doesn't apply linearly,
of
course, because at the top is where most of that inflation gets focused. In the middle ground, too, I think a lot of those guys go up for more than they should, although when you look at them as a group, they all kind of fit. But, in the end game, you can still get a few dollar pickups. I got Robbie Grossman for $1, Luis Torrens. 18-team two-catcher league. I mean, $1 Luis Torrens actually kind of excited me a little bit. I have Adley Rutschman saved for 9. I finished dead last year. I want to be clear about that.
Well, right, and we're all staff. It's RotoWire Staff League, so if we call out a team, we're calling out a teammate, as it were. But Mike Rusignola,
yep.
He had a ton of money. He bought Freddie Freeman for 62, Yelich for 60, and Mike Trout for 65.
Yeah,
so
that
all
was
right.
crazy. Didn't he get Trout and Yelich right away to kick things off?
Right, but okay, you have the money, but are you going to compete? When you had to pay, your Nico Horner for $1, Willie Calhoun for $1, who's going to be out, Tanner Houck, Dalton Jeffries, and Hosea Gray.
Yeah.
3 pitchers are probably aren't going to start, the season.
Mm-hmm.
His top pitcher is Eflin at 1, Montes 5. He's got Pablo Lopez. He's got some nice pitching, but he doesn't have an ace pitcher. Now maybe you can trade for him, or maybe that's what he's planning on doing, is trading the $3 $60 guys. But my point being, you didn't have to go completely. If you were planning on competing, you don't go completely nuts with those guys, because other people with a more balanced team have a better pitching staff, and even on the offense, Evan White, Leody Tavares, who were keepers. It's those are nice top 3 players, but it's just not my style. Now, if he's planning on trading those and get prospects, and that's one thing. But it's hard to trade a $60 player with an in-season salary cap.
Yeah, that's a really important point, because you bring in Freddie Freeman at 62, you have less than $40, $38 to work with to add players, and also remember your free agent budget counts against that in-season cap. So it is a questionable approach for Michael Rusignola. I will say I do like getting some money off the table right away, and again, because he has so many $1 guys down the road, those could look great, a few of those.
For sure.
But just the fact that he spent so big, we're talking about $180+ on 3 players.
This time next year, we could talk about Houck, Jeffries, and Hosea Gray as 3 incredible $1 keepers for his pitching.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I'm hoping to have a couple long-term keepers on the pitching side, and Freddie Peralta for 11. Now, Tejay Antone for 19. In our software, because of the inflation, you can actually click inflation, and they recalculate the auction dollars for you. And it was like around 30, so I was actually pretty pumped when Tejay Antone stopped at 19. I was a little surprised. Now, at 19, is he going to be a great keeper? I don't know, but if he turns out to be a really good starter, maybe. Lucas Sims for 2, I like as a potential long-term keeper. And then Trevor Rogers, who we've been James Anderson's been beating the drum. We've been talking about him a little bit. Number 5 starter in Miami, but the arsenal, the stuff, a lot better than a typical number 5. So
yeah,
I did that. Then on the hitting side, I mentioned Torrens, Altuve at 28. I'm kind of rebuilding, but I think I do kind of like the buy low on Altuve. Eddie Rosario, 26. Brian Anderson for 8. I'll probably put Brian Anderson up at third base over Edwin Rios, and maybe filter in Josh Rojas, who I was the a-hole who, tried to nominate a guy who I couldn't actually roster. And so I think maybe it was a situation where some people forgot about Rojas. I ended up getting him in reserve, so that was kind of nice.
Now, let's go back to Antone for a minute. You mentioned up to $30. People are probably scratching their heads. Jeff Erickson may or may not been making this projection with red rose colored glasses. 10-8 record, 3.38 ERA, 1.22 WHIP, with 171 strikeouts. That's pretty aggressive, right? I think
it is.
That's pretty aggressive. So people scratching their head. It's not the $30. It's if you believe in those numbers, then the $30 is okay. I think that's pretty aggressive. First of all, it's hard to keep a 3.38 ERA with a 1.22 WHIP. Mm-hmm. That's hard to do. And 100. That's how many starts? 29 starts. That to me, it's just aggressive. I like Antone. I don't know that he's a sub 3.5 pitcher just yet anyway. So if you
That's
believe,
fair.
if you believe, you believe. And, Jeff and I, the 750 players, I'm sure we agree on 700 of them, right? Antone just doesn't happen to be one of them. So just be aware. Is it definite at this point? It's probable that he's breaking camp in the rotation, right?
Well, he's hurt still a little bit, and they've just lost so many other arms. I actually think Jose De Leon's a pretty good bet to break camp in that rotation. He's thrown a bunch of innings this spring, and yeah, with Lorenzen not really doing well and Wade Miley hurt, it's looking like maybe Antone breaks camp. But I've also heard maybe he's in like a Hader-ish role, like when Hader first broke in, was more of a multi-inning guy, but also a back-end guy.
So Gray, knock on wood, it doesn't get the first opening day. Well, he wasn't getting opening day anyway. He doesn't start in the first few games. He may like miss one start or be the
Sonny
fifth.
Gray too. I didn't even mention.
Yeah, he may just be the fifth starter. Or he may miss a start in general. But if you had him for 32, you have Gray for 30 starts now, right? It's not at least on the current set of news. But
I've been a little hesitant with him just because of how last season ended. Sonny Gray did not pitch in the wild card series, and I don't know. I've had some lingering concerns. But
ended with injury or ended with performance?
Well, he came back in September to throw a couple starts. I think he threw 80-plus pitches in both of them, but not more than 90 in either of them. And then he did not pitch in the two-game wild card series in which the Reds were swept and were shut out in both games.
Right,
of course.
right. If I recall correctly, I liked enough of what I saw so that I was okay coming into this year, as a bulk sort of innings type of guy.
I get that. Now, on your end, Todd, in the salary cap portion, you went Elias Diaz for $4. I was kind of hoping to sneak him through, but I kind of like that. Jonathan Scope for $1. Alex Dickerson added to your group of players. Hunter Renfroe for $6. Jackie Bradley for $4. You did spread the wealth here. Steven Strasburg, $29. Zach Wheeler, $25. James Paxton, $16. Josh Lindblom, $9. Davey Garcia, $5. Brad Keller, $7. And Trevor Rosenthal, 17. So yeah, a lot of players in that $4 to $15 range. So I like how you did it here. With Paxton, he has yet to pitch this spring, but he's going to pitch soon, right? I was getting a little nervous.
He's been pitching in the backyard in the B games.
Backyards, okay.
Yeah, in the backyards, backfields. Yeah. It's not that he's hurt. He's pitching, but he hasn't done it in an A game where you might see it on TV. He's pitching in the B games, the inter squad games, etc. So that was a somewhat encouraging sign. Yeah, the chased Wheeler a bit, just because again you got to spend some money and need some pitching. Strasburg's a roll of the dice at 29. I admit that Wheeler. I did one of these strategies, if you call it that way, where I can compete if things go right. I inherited this team, and you might be a little jealous in that I had Julio Rodriguez and Wander Franco as my two of the top minor leaguers. So it wasn't hard to talk me into joining this league with those two. Jeff didn't have to twist my arm. But I was willing to go a little higher on Scope. I was willing to go a little higher on Dickerson and willing to go a little higher on Bradley. I'm actually warming to Jackie Bradley in Milwaukee.
I kind of like that too.
I warmed to Colton Wong, who's now hitting leadoff for the Brewers, or has been. Colton Wong leadoff for the Brewers. Cha-ching! I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Went back and so many rosters I have Wong on, and I'm pretty happy about that. So there's the $8. And Diaz, there was, I forget who it was. There was another catcher that I thought about, for the future, but makes contact in Colorado. What can go wrong, as they say. So what was frustrating, not only seeing these guys go for 60, I couldn't bid on a corner. Not only that, I couldn't throw out a corner. Well, you can't bid, you can't throw out, because I had my corner and my utility filled up with corners. Now, every time I got frustrated, I looked at the prices and I'm like, okay, I'm not so upset anymore. But I was hoping that everybody would be throwing corners out early, so no one else got like a bargain on a corner. Of course, you're going to get bargains, but a really good bargain. So when Nolan Arenado went for 45, I'm okay. I don't have to do the work. People are doing it for me. So that was kind of good. But I mean, what, Abreu at 33, Jose Abreu. I mean, when Freddie Freeman goes for 62, Abreu at 33 looks pretty good. Kyle Seager at 13 doesn't look great. But when Jake Cronenworth goes for 12 and some of these prices in the teens, I'm okay with that. And who else was there? Carlos Santana at 12. I'll take that all day long. And my other corner, who would it have been at this point? Whatever. I mean, the point being, I liked the guys that I had. As Dribble Cabrera for $1. Mm-hmm. I keep thinking, maybe I shouldn't have kept him at $1. Then I'm looking at the dollar players and like, I'm glad I kept him at $1.
Yeah, you got Mondesi on this team too, and those prospects on the way. That's a pretty nice squad. It is fun. I have never won, and Ryan Roof has just dominated. I think he's won 3 of the last 4. So yeah, he's had a dynasty going and trying to knock off Ryan. If I can finally, I still have some work to do with this rebuild, but I'm feeling okay about.
Let's see. This. So your minor leaguers, you got some guy named Acuna. Well, I hear he's got pretty good pedigree. Jeter Downs, who Red Sox. Lodolo, not a hometown pick, but I'm sure you're not unhappy. Manoah's made some noise this camp, right?
Yeah, Alek Manoah's making a lot of noise, and you look at that Blue Jays staff. There's a pretty clear path for Alek Manoah to contribute this year.
Yeah, exactly. And you talked about McClanahan either on the radio or podcast before. Sixto Sanchez, we all know. Austin Martin. Not bad there, right?
Yeah.
So you went in pretty early.
I had the first pick, finishing last, so I was able to get Austin Martin.
Right. So what we do is we combine the reserves and the minor leaguers, and we can buy minor leaguers in the draft, so it reduces the field a bit. My favorite, I like when the minor leaguers are run previous to the salary cap draft. You get better minor leaguers in there, but if I want to start a staff league and make the rule, that I will. So he was the best available. See, I was able to when I have Franco and I mentioned Rodriguez, I also have Tarek Skubal. I was able to pretend I'm going to compete and pick up reserves in my reserves, so I was able to get Edward Olivares, Chris Martin, who. I was tilting that I forgot about Ottavino during the regular draft. I think it was List that got him. I'm not mad that List got him. Didn't matter who got him. I was mad that I didn't get him.
Yeah.
But I was
Chris
able
Martin
to
was a steal, though.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to, assuage my concerns by getting Chris Martin in the reserves. So DeSclafani, Merrill Kelly, Jay Cave. I like Cave. He's one of those guys in a league like this. He could play early. There's a couple injuries early on. Then when it becomes a reserve again, you just dump him. But you get a regular playing time out of him for a couple weeks, and then and then get rid of him if I have to. So I'm getting hitting in a few. When I have a sketchy outfielder already, I'm trying to get Cave. I need to check the story now, but at one point maybe it was for Buxton, I don't recall, or maybe it was just Kirilloff, or just in general that Cave may play early.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I'll run through my full list of reserve picks, not just the minor leaguers here in a second. But real quick note from our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Fantasy baseball is here, and you've got to check out these new best ball leagues on Underdog. Best ball is the ultimate test of your live draft skills. Since there's no in-season management, that's right, draft your team, and Underdog automatically credits you with your best performing players each week. You don't need to play the waiver wire or worry about trades. It's just the draft. Who doesn't love drafting? In Underdog Best Ball, you can draft as many times as you want because you don't have to do any roster management, saving you loads of time. Underdog's Best Ball leagues are drafting right now, starting at just $3 a piece. Once the season starts, Underdog also has daily fantasy and an all-new Pick'em game. Go download the Underdog app now to get in on some best ball before the season starts. Enter promo code RotoWire with your first deposit, and Underdog will honor a money-back guarantee during your first month. Love Underdog or get your money back with promo code RotoWire. Search Underdog in your app store and enter promo code RotoWire. Todd, I mentioned that I got Josh Rojas. He was my first major league reserve player. Then I got Pete Fairbanks, who I do like as a partial closer, maybe more. Jose Cisnero, who the guys over at the Rates and Barrels podcast, our friends Derek Van Riper and Eno Saris, were talking about Cisnero recently. And they had, I apologize, I forget the Athletics Tigers beat writer, but he had thrown out Cisnero, and the stuff is pretty good, so I thought I'd take a shot. Chris Bubich, who I think needs a little more seasoning maybe, but I like long-term. Justin Topa, who the Brewers guys here in the office have turned me on to. Brett Gardner, then Austin Barnes, who probably will start opening day catching Clayton Kershaw.
Right.
And has been described as kind of the 1A. Doesn't really make sense because they said 1 and 1A, so he is kind of secondary. He is secondary to Will Smith, but they made it very clear they want to get Austin Barnes quite a bit of playing time without the DH. That may hurt Will Smith a little bit. You want to mention any of your? You mentioned Edward Olivares. Chris Martin was in my queue on CBS in the salary cap portion, but I had all my pitching spots filled, so I couldn't. I was like, man, that was a great deal. You mentioned, I guess, most of these guys, but any picks in the reserves that you thought were particularly noteworthy?
We'll see. I mean, the reserves. These are what is it? $5, $7, $1?
They turn into $5 keepers.
$5, right? So,
if you're a major league reserve, if you're a minor leaguer drafted in reserves, it's $3.
Right. So I mean, Merrill Kelly, we talked thoracic outlet. We'll see. Same with Mike Voltinevich. Short term, they could be fine. Long term, it's a question. I only had 3 minor, pure farm players. Oh man, Brent Honeywell, I can't give him up. He's my,
nice. Yeah, that's right.
And what I haven't been able to find out, and I haven't looked that hard, but I want to find. I mean, he's through the screwball. And I want to find out if he's, with all the injuries and the rehabs, if he's still throwing the screwball. Mm-hmm. And then one of the things, this might not be the best strategy, but catchers, it's just so hard to find. So at the end, when everybody's gone, I throw my reserve pick at catchers. I already have Tyler Stevenson. I went Ronaldo Hernandez, who the Red Sox acquired in, which trade was it? Was that Tampa?
Wait, who did you say?
Ronaldo Hernandez.
Oh, yeah, they did get him from Tampa.
And then Miguel Amaya, just a couple of long shot catchers.
Yeah. Again, 36 active catchers in this league.
Yeah. So, and I believe, with the Cubs and, Contreras is there, but you never know with these. So I took a couple long shots, figuring, again, I've got a couple of pretty top minor leagues. I have Jonah Heim, too. So I have four of my minor leaguers are catchers. So if I lose 2 spots, I lose 2 spots, I won't keep them next year, and I'll be able to draft minor leaguers. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be interesting. I'm going to try. Not that I didn't try last year, but this is. I'd like to see what happens. I'd like to try to compete this year, and we'll see what goes. I don't know how many of these guys are in the office. Maybe right now, not a whole lot, just because. You don't have a lot of people in the office with the situation, but a league like this is a lot of lunchtime trading, gym time trading, right? Just smoking time trading, whatever it is they may be doing together. So I have a slight disadvantage, but there's ways around that.
Yeah, I'm glad you're in the league. I was kind of out to lunch on this league last year, just given my state of the team, Adley Rutschman, and the like. But I'm looking forward to hopefully being more competitive this year. We'll see. I thought Pavin Smith to Eric Segris was a pretty good reserve pick. Like it. Yeah. He was one of his last major league reserves too. And then I thought Eric Halterman did well getting JT Brubaker and Nick Pivetta. I'm kind of coming around on Pivetta. I know it's kind of a sucker thing, but he's not going, 150 like he was 2018 when he was a huge bust. A guy you can get with one of your last reserve picks, and I thought Eric did pretty well getting two starters in Brubaker and Pivetta with plausible upside. Are you buying the hype on Pivetta?
In New England, I have not followed like a typical Red Sox fan may follow the minor leaguers, so I just read the same reports. I I suppose you have to be mildly interested just because he's got the stuff, and maybe the Red Sox have unearthed something and figure out a way to hone it. I don't know. So I'm not buying into it. I haven't done enough research to know if I'm buying into it or not.
That's fair.
Because it's supposed to be my job, I'm supposed to know these things. He's a player, and part of it is because I'm preparing for NL Tout, so I haven't. I'm focusing on that a little bit. But
yeah, no, that's understandable.
I'm curious. I suppose if I was doing a mixed draft, I would take him, but Fenway Park isn't my favorite place to stream pitchers in either. So I guess I'm cautiously skeptical as opposed to cautiously optimistic.
I hear that. No, that's totally understandable with Pivetta. 9 innings this spring, though, 8-1 K to walk. He's pitching pretty well and does seem to have that number 5 spot on lock. Good for Eduardo Rodriguez, by the way, getting the official opening day nod. And as you prepare for NL Tout, you mentioned you like Pavin Smith. Are you going to be looking at Pavin Smith in the NL as a target for you?
He's an OBP guy. Could be looking at it. He also 5 games. He may pick up outfield. He's one of the guys in the mix for Cole Calhoun's spot, along with Dalton Varsho. Everybody should know he's played right field the past couple of games, so that's a good sign. Maybe he does break camp. I hope to avoid needing to go to the Pavin Smith level, although he may be just above just above the level I'm trying to avoid. Where I think Smith will play, although Christian Walker deserves to play. Maybe Smith is one of those guys where we put this out in the tout table this week for the question, what are you going to do with the DH? And it's pretty unanimous. Everybody's right now drafting as if there's no DH. But, hey, maybe you pick up Smith because if the MLB does swerve, he's a guy that's going to pick up at bats. So maybe that's the plan.
I like that. Yeah, and just where that team is at right now, I think you'd want to evaluate Pavin Smith. So, yeah, deep league name that, since you mentioned you liked him in this 18-teamer, I thought we'd touch on him momentarily. Yeah. But, Todd, your latest Z-Files column went up on the site, RotoWire.com, this morning. Candidates to lose homers with the new baseball, RotoWire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial. Check this out. Highly recommend it. Now, this spring, Todd, we've seen some monster shots. Even Bobby Witt, who, I won't bore you with more Bobby Witt talk, but because we talked about him last week on MLB Network Radio as part of spring training tour.
Well, I want to know is how he can get all this hitting in when he's working on his Hall of Fame induction speech.
Yeah, he's a busy 20-year-old. He's already getting set for the Hall. No, it is, recency bias, seeing it with your own 2 eyes and all, but I mean, he could spark that team, and I am looking at him as maybe a mixed league stash. I know you're shaking your head right now, but
yeah, well, I'm of the mind where every year there's someone like this, and the one time in 10 years that I get burned, I'm willing to accept it.
Who was the guy in the last 10 years? Acuna or somebody like this?
Well, I'm not even sure. That's the point. It's so hard to figure out who the guy. I mean, Tatis came up mid-season, so Vlad burned people. I mean, Joe Odell burned people. It's such a rare when someone breaks camp and just hits from the get-go. It just maybe. Well, Bichette. Well, it was a short year though.
Tatis did.
Well, he came up mid-year though.
He was on the roster. He was on the opening day roster, Fernando Tatis.
I was all right because I looked at his numbers and I thought he had like 300 bats that
well, he
1
got
year.
hurt. He got hurt, but he was. I remember that because like Manny Machado, I think took AJ Preller to lunch.
That's right.
And was like, we need this guy on the opening day roster. But
all right, so it could be so Tatis is an example, but it's just so rare. So I've seen the highlights. I love the kid as far as future, obviously. Who doesn't? But it's just not my style. So
no, I hear you. I was
each their own.
Yeah, no, I did rank him on my top 300, but we have a roundtable coming, and I don't think he's going to be making that in terms of the composite rank. But I wrote about him a little bit in my AL Labor recap. Just a little surprised that 348 players in the AL drafted. Bobby Witt wasn't one of them, but now Dayton Moore acknowledging that, hey, he'll be open-minded when it comes to Bobby Witt Jr. on the opening day roster. And I do feel like he's their best second base option right now. Looks really good at second, and the hands are lightning quick. So I do like him. But my original point was that some of these balls are flying big time. But what's the original or the initial estimate? Is it like 5 feet will be lost in terms of average fly ball distance?
I've read 1 or 2 feet for every 375 feet, which is like nothing.
Yeah, that's
now that was just one. That was just one story, and it's speculation. It's science. It's laboratory. I mean, I believe in science, so but we don't know for sure what's going to happen. 5 feet was how much was around what was gained in 2019.
Okay.
So and it's also hard to figure out. I'm reading that some teams get a mixture of old balls and new balls, and it's a little difficult to figure out. But so the list I put up was complete speculation. I'm not changing any rankings because of it. All I'm probably doing is avoiding a team of everybody that's in the risk group.
Sure.
I mean, and that just happens naturally. And it's also no coincidence that a lot of those names in the risk group were the players that benefited from 2019 because of the methodology is using average fly ball distance, not average home run distance. Mike Podhorzer, our colleague, Fangraphs, did a nice study. It's average fly ball distance that correlates very well with home run per fly ball. So I did some graphs of data and found I call it the sweet spot. Maybe it's a sour spot this year. It was sweet spot in 2019. It's a sweet spot for pitchers, maybe. I'm going to turn that off. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
It wasn't my landlord. I don't have to talk to him. Someone wants me to buy something, or my credit's bad, or Google wants me to register my website or something.
Asking about your car's extended warranty. Probably.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I get those calls all the time.
Oh yeah. So home run distance, fly ball distance. So it's not linear. It's intuitive, and sometimes intuitive. You like it when numbers, bear out intuitively. There's a certain distance where it's not going to matter, right? Giancarlo Stanton loses a foot, who cares? Aaron Judge, Miguel Sano, who cares? When if Malak Smith or Billy Hamilton gain a foot, who cares? I'm losing a foot because it's not going out anyway. Right. So if I found that sweet spot where losing 1 or 2, 3 or 3 feet will hurt them disproportionately. And it's, again, the correlation is good with home run per fly ball to average fly ball distance, 0.7, 0.8, somewhere in that range. But there's still exceptions, and parks play a factor. So it was more of a light yellow flag as opposed to a blood red flag.
Very nice. Good way to put it. And before we get into those players, let me bring you a quick word from our friends at Stable Duel. Baseball has always been America's pastime, but a close second is horse racing, and we've got the best way to get in on the action. Stable Duel brings a new way to play the races against your friends. Similar to what we only know in fantasy football and baseball, you select your team or your stable of horses and compete against other stables for big money prizes. Watch your stable move up the leaderboard as your horses accumulate points based on where they finish the race. The app is free to download, and they offer free games so you can learn how to play at zero risk. Don't know anything about horse racing? Don't worry. The app has all you need to know with free data on each horse's record, as well as a risk number, a speed number, and value number for your best selections. This is the first game of its kind in horse racing, and you don't want to miss out. Download the Stable Duel app now and get in the game. Play, race, win with Stable Duel. So, Todd, candidates to lose homers with the new baseball, your latest Z-Files, and you did group these into 3 groups, these players. Group 1, batters, RotoWire projects to hit at least 20 homers, but are in the most danger of being hurt by the less bouncy baseball. Group 2, those also expected to knock at least 20 out of the yard, but who shouldn't be affected as much. And then Group 3, hitters we project to bash fewer than 20 homers, but are relevant enough names that you should be aware they could lose a long ball or 2. So Group 1, kicking things off with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that's not what I want to see, Todd. What has you thinking he could be a guy who loses because of the ball?
Well, it's the numbers. His average fly ball distance is 316 feet. He loses a couple of feet, he falls into that range where it drops off. But he's changed his swing. He's lost some weight. I wouldn't sweat too much. He could add distance organically to counteract the potential loss. So I wouldn't be not too concerned there.
Yeah, he's looking really good this spring. Hopefully he's able to keep it up. The park in Dunedin looks like it's going to be pretty favorable, and so I know Rob Silver tweeted that in the mains this weekend, like if you're in his main, you got to take him in the third, Vladdy. And I was hoping to get him in the fourth in some of my remaining drafts, but after Rob says it, he'll move markets a little bit, and so I'll probably have to maybe get even more aggressive on Vladdy. We talked about Will Smith. When I mentioned Austin Barnes, Will Smith of the Dodgers losing time with the lack of a universal DH. Also a guy who was maybe propped up a little bit by the live ball in recent years.
Potentially. I've said it before. If Will Smith plays the same amount as JT Realmuto, I like Will Smith more. So we talked about Austin Barnes earlier. If Will Smith shows improved defense, and I haven't read any reports that he's improving it, but one must think he's trying to work on it, his bat's in the lineup, right? I mean, and I know Kershaw may throw to Barnes, so maybe it's not quite a 4-1 because you're going to get Barnes in there more than that, but maybe it's not a timeshare. Maybe it is closer to the 65-35 than the 60-40 or 55-45 that a 1 and 1A implies. But it's the defense. Can Will Smith handle the staff, and can he throw a couple runners out and keep that bat in the lineup? The bat, as we know, is ready.
And then Nate Lowe, you mentioned that this article is kind of meant to be like a yellow flag on some of these players, but Nate Lowe combined with the spring, I mean, it's become a red flag for me with Nate Lowe. Jason Collette has mentioned his numbers on like premium velocity, and Nate Lowe struggles. So the Rays shipped him, which is never a great sign. And then you look at the numbers, 11 Ks and 25 at-bats so far this spring for Nate Lowe. And meanwhile, Ronald Guzman's crushing it. So I'm actually thinking Ronald Guzman may be the starting first baseman there in Texas to begin things, especially after his winter league run, Guzman.
Right. And if Lowe would hit one fewer, or if Jeff projected for one fewer home run, and who knows, maybe Jeff will make an adjustment with this latest news, he wouldn't have even made this list. So if you lose 5% of home runs, that's 19 to 20. That's nothing. Right. So it's if you're on Nate Lowe, you're on. If you're not, you're not. I mean, and a lot of these players in this danger group are just barely over 20. So it's really, I mean, I don't want to say much ado about nothing, but it's not, I mean.
It is kind of an arbitrary number that just we like because it's a round number.
Well, yeah, not just that, because if you lose 15, if you lose 5%, you're 14.5 or something. I mean,
sure.
Or, the production's so low that the cost, et cetera. So this whole idea, I mean, I think it matters more for pitchers. If there's a pitch, home runs are so important for run scoring. The problem is I did this 2 years ago for 2019. I had to do it after the fact because we didn't know. But when the study came out in the first week of April, I actually had a really good, I don't want to say hit rate, but success rate identifying hitters that were going to get more home runs. I used the same methodology with pitching, and it wasn't nearly as success. It didn't identify pitching, maybe because there's more luck associated with 30 games over 100 than versus 150. I'm not exactly sure why, but I may do the pitching one next week. I don't know. But it wasn't using the same methodology. Finding pitchers whose average home run distance, average fly ball distance is in this 315 range. It just wasn't as effective than at least last time. So we'll see.
Yeah, when you did this previously, you didn't you hit on a few of these guys? Was it Kyle Seager?
Seager, Semien, and Gurriel actually happened to be guys that I drafted on my TGFBI team, but not because of this.
Yeah.
I just got really unlucky.
But it's just interesting how that panned out and actually, was actionable for you.
the idea was you can trade for these guys, etc. I know Semyon Marte fell in that range. Marte was a guy that came up. The one of the can be concerned about could be this year's Biggio, Cavan Biggio. Though I tweeted about this already. You already should have normalized his home runs because last year the fly ball distance from last year did not equate to the number of home runs that he hit. So you've already should have made an adjustment. So now it's kind of, if you didn't make that adjustment, now the adjustment seems steep. But if you already made that adjustment, it's not the biggest of deal. I suppose Clint Frazier worries me because he's a right-handed batter in Yankee Stadium. He doesn't hit the opposite field, so his distance is such that he's in that scary group. That one scares me a bit. Kyle Tucker surprised me more than it scares me. I still think he's. I don't know when you're right. I hate to say the word maturing when I mean physically because some people think I mean mentally. I don't mean he's an immature kid. Yeah. I just mean he's still growing into his body. He's still pretty young, so he's still developing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that counterbalances it. But there's really, I don't think I'm making any adjustments to anybody. Trent Grisham, perhaps, just because without a DH, he's already going to take a bit of a hit. Because he may bat lefty. He may bat eighth against southpaw pitching. And in the National League, that'll hurt stolen base chances. So he's being drafted and I was on him very aggressively too. But I think you have to back off a little bit just because of the no DH could end up hurting him a bit.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm with you, and I think I feel like I've been a little lower on guys like Cavan Biggio and Kyle Tucker, but I'm interested to see how far they slip in like main events this weekend because, maybe I'll swing to the other side and there'll be a little bit of a buying opportunity, but I don't see myself getting Kyle Tucker if he's going in the third. Or a guy like Cavan Biggio if he's still going, 6, 7, 8. So
you're right.
We'll see. Now, I'm a little surprised Tejay LeMahieu isn't in this first group. He's in the group of guys who shouldn't be as affected as much, and it's just by the numbers. His average distance is just better. So 321, he fits into the second group. But if you look at the StatCast numbers in terms of expected outcomes, differences between expected and actual, LeMahieu pops up everywhere. But it seems like the park is just such a natural fit that you don't have to worry too much about major regression.
Right. So you have to keep in mind, and I maybe, if I'm wrong on this, people let us know. And this may be a little too myopic or simplistic, but from what I understand, every batted ball is judged against every other batted ball of its type, and it's the park is not taken into consideration. So a particular ball hit opposite way at a certain angle at a certain velocity off LeMahieu's bat will find the stands at Yankee Stadium because it's so close, but it's an out in so many other parks. So the probability is based on if it happened in isn't based upon if it happened in Yankee Stadium. It's in general. So that's why you can't just expected minus actual drop the mic. You have to. There are park factors involved. Houston is the same idea. You look at Bregman and Altuve and to a less, not Springer's batted ball data is pretty good, but their batted ball data isn't very good relative to everybody else. But those Crawford boxes just help them so much so that you don't have to barrel up the ball. You don't have to put it 380 feet to get it out in Houston. So their expected numbers look like they were lucky. Well, the really lucky thing is they play in Houston. That's the luck. Once they're in Houston, it's because of Houston.
Very interesting stuff. This has been a great piece, and you can check it out for yourself. We got to start to wrap things up just because, I got to get this off before the XM show. But anything else on your mind? Again, come hang out with me tomorrow as I sit in on AL Tout Wars. I was in AL Labor, so I'm excited to see how the salary the roster. I'm trying to use this new verbiage, and I think it's good because if the old verbiage offends one person, it's not that hard to change things up. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the salaries compare to AL labor. Anything else you want to say, Todd?
No, just exactly that. All 4 salary cap drafts will be covered. I've had more practice than you, especially in writing.
I mean, I'm still getting used to it, but it's not hard to change it up.
No, there's some debate on Twitter whether it's necessary. Maybe that's for a different time, different place. But this is what we're doing. And I, writing for ESPN, we were on this a little earlier, so I've had practice. So I
respect
still say it more.
Again, if it offends one person, we can change it up. It's takes a little getting used to, but we'll all get there. And words matter. Words matter.
Right. Well, my since we're kind of on it, the way I feel about it is everybody has a line, right? Individual where what should be said, what shouldn't. We all don't have the same line. Some people think auction's fine, and in their head, they think it's fine. I also know there's people out there that take advantage of this sort of thing and pretend they're mad to use it to their agenda, to forward an agenda. So it's one of those things where you just kind of, in your head, you just kind of know. And as you're alluding to, if you have to ask yourself, should I say this? The answer is probably no.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean...
And I have a line, and auction is on the, I won't say auction side of the line. There are other stuff that I'm less sensitive about, and it's not about you. It's not about me.
Exactly.
It's about
everybody
the other people.
Else.
So
yes.
Yeah. And so
I'm trying to eliminate auction from my fantasy lingo. And
if there was a mistake, made, it was by the ESPN, CBS, and Yahoo to call them salary cap drafts because there's already a form called salary cap drafts. So
sure, I mean maybe a little
have been a mistake. But what else are you going to call them? That's the other thing. So anyway,
it works, but.
So you got to get out of here. So just check out the Tout Wars website and the Twitter feed. And hang out with Clay, hang out with DVR, hang out with Mike Gianella. And I think Jason Collette is the 4th. If he's not, I apologize for the 4 different festivities. And you can comment along on Zoom.
Yeah, come hang out. I will be happy to interact and answer questions, and we'll just be chilling. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you for all you do, Todd, to make Tout Wars happen. And thanks again for including me. And I mentioned, too, when I was doing a Fab panel with Pianowski and Vlad, I just appreciate you guys over at Tout publishing the Fab results, because I always do double check. I kind of have my initial NFBC bids in, but then you guys are kind enough to post the Tout Wars Fab results when those go live, and so that's always a great check for me. So I appreciate you guys being so kind and getting those up so quickly, so that I can cross check and make sure I'm not blowing it in my NFBC.
That's I'm gonna put that on my to-do list. That's why you can't get a hold of me on Sunday nights. I have a program that behind the fourth wall. I have a program that kind of does it automatically, so it looks like a ton of work. The ton of work was setting up the Excel to begin with. Once I get it set up, I just drop them in, and I can post them. I used to write articles about them. That was when I was younger and eager and trying to make a name for myself, and no one read them. So now we're smart. We just post the results.
Yeah, I hear that. I do love it, and again, that's a very helpful tool because I want to know who did DVR bid on, who did Zola bid on. So it's good to be sure I got all my bases covered in my money leagues.
All right.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next Friday, and good luck in your drafts in the meantime. Talk to you soon on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.